Okay, thank you very much indeed. Let's move on to our next question. Microphone, please, to Ellie.
What advice can you give us now in Year 9 that will help us to cope with exams in the next 2 years?
Right, so Year 9, 2 more years to go before the exams, and any help and advice? Josh?
Well, pick the subjects that you enjoy and what you want to take up as a career. But also, you've got to study on your maths, English and science.
So you've got to have the core subjects, even though you also want to do the things you enjoy. Sandra, what do you think?
For us as a bank, it's really around your maths and English as an absolute basic. And obviously there's a number of different roles that you can become involved with, but really just having that basic knowledge. But having fun with some of your other subjects as well, and helping you develop as a person and to be able to stand up and do stuff like this, because the reality when you come to interview and you come to work is you actually need to be able to engage with people.
So having something to talk about, really. Liz, I don't know what other hats you wear in life.
I'm an administrator of a charity, but I do think the important thing is to try and pace yourself so that it's not all work, it's not all play, and I think that is going to be crucial to you as you go into Year 10.
Jessie?
Just don't leave everything till like 2 weeks before the exam.
Oh.
Make sure you spread it out across the years and just don't leave it right till the end.
Are you speaking from experience there?
Yes.
Oh, she's so honest, isn't she? It's wonderful. So, I mean, when did it suddenly hit you that, you know, you've only just got this chance, you've got to really knuckle down?
About 2 weeks before my exam started in Year 10.
Really? That late? Was there a sort of something that somebody said or did?
It was just myself, really. I discovered that I need to do this for myself and not be an idiot.
And did you know what sort of career you wanted to go into?
Yeah, I've always wanted to do the same career since I was younger.
But you hadn't realised you'd going to have to work to get there?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for passing on your experiences, and we wish you all the best, of course. We're going to come back to you again now, Alan. 2 years to go. What advice have you got for them?
The same answer to the other question. Accept responsibility, organise yourself, and keep a balance between work and having some fun. You know, you need to enjoy life, but honestly, you have more fun when you work hard and you achieve. But it's usually, Jessie's an exception, sorry Jessie, usually the girls are really good at this, us blokes aren't so good at getting ourselves organised. I was a classic bloke who was immature and took a while to accept responsibility. Usually, Jessie accepted of course, the girls really get themselves organised and they are more successful in exams because unfairly we all take the exams whether you're a boy or a girl at a certain age. And girls are obviously at an advantage because they're more mature than the lads and they're ready for their exams usually, apart from Jessie.
Jessie, I promise you, when you're a managing director of a company, of a multi-million-pound company, or at the top of your profession, we'll have you back on another panel just to show that you did it, all right? It's not a knock Jessie night, I promise you, because we really appreciate you coming in today and passing on your experiences. Let's have Louisa's question, please.
In our film, we interviewed our parents. Should parents be consulted and be more involved in their children's education?
Oh, I'm sure we've got some parents in the audience who would like to come back on that one. They interviewed parents. Should parents be consulted and more involved in their children's education? Liz?
I think for a lot of parents, school is very, very different to when they went to school. And so there have been a lot of changes. And I think that parents sometimes find it difficult to understand just what you face now because exams weren't like that when they were in school. So I think the more that you can do to educate your parents, the better.
And sometimes mums and dads don't always see eye to eye or understand things in the same way as we saw so well in the film, of course, too. So, okay then, let's ask Sandra.
I think parents can perhaps encourage you to look at outside interests as well. So if you're starting to think about building a CV of experiences that you've had, maybe your parents have friends that they could involve you with in their businesses and really just encourage you that way, as well as obviously with the day-to-day stuff at home.
Surely sometimes I'm a parent, sometimes you think the school's the experts. We don't want to tell them what their job, we don't want to be one of these pushy parents that is always at the head teacher's office door and let's leave them to get on with it. And there must be a bit of a balance to strike.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, I'll be a bit controversial here, I think parents in Suffolk need to do a bit more of that. I've worked in Suffolk for quite a while, but I have worked in other places. And I think there are times when parents should be a bit more pushy. And I don't mean that, I mean that in the right sort of way. Asking challenging questions is really important. It keeps everybody on the toes. Personally, I wish they'd ask more questions about academic progress rather than questioning petty rules sometimes, because at the end of the day, it's not a negotiation about some standard rules, and some parents get really uptight about that. And I've been frustrated thinking, I wish you'd quizzed me more about how your son or daughter was doing in the maths, whether we dispute the length of a skirt or not. I think we've moved beyond that, in fairness. But I actually think it's really important, and lots of parents do. I know when I was the head teacher here, we used to get a really good turnout for parents' evening. It was very heartening to see lots of young people that were being supported by the parents. But this big thing about Suffolk at the minute, and could we do a bit better, it involves everybody, doesn't it? And that's parents. So don't be afraid to ask challenging questions to support your son or daughter, but make sure it's the right thing.
One of my daughter-in-laws is a secondary teacher, and she always says that the parents who ought to come to parents' evenings are the ones that don't come. It tends to be the keen and committed ones who are there, and you actually want to see the others as well. And probably that's true of who are here tonight.
Well, I mean, we've tried to make it easier, although Janet in the film made the point that we developed some good strategies, and then a new Secretary of State comes along and says you can't have a review day or something, which actually made it really easy to have dialogue with parents, really meaningful, but then that was banned because, well, I don't know why why these people ban things sometimes. So it's quite tough. We sometimes have pressures from outside of school that we can't do anything about. You've got to find ways around that.
I'm going to ask Jessie and Josh now. I mean, it must be, for some teenagers, they'd be mortified if their parents got pushy at school and got over-involved. I mean, can you understand that?
Yeah, but I wish my mum just done like a little bit more. She didn't. My mum was like a bit confused about the whole education system. She didn't really understand what was going on because it was so different from when she was younger. She didn't really understand. I'd ask her a question, she wouldn't know how to answer it because she wasn't well informed enough to be able to answer it. You know.
So should schools do more to inform parents?
Yeah, I think if you informed parents more, then more students may be able to succeed more.
Josh, I mean, were your...
Yeah, my parents are just the exact same as Jessie's really. So it's like not knowing the question and not knowing where you're at to, like they can just go, oh, so how's the homework getting on? Yeah, it's fine really. And I've not even done it, so it's actually
As a parent, I know that feeling, yeah, indeed.
Can I just come in there? I think that's really, really valid. I think there's quite a job to be done there. It's quite confusing, the curriculum. And as a parent, I'm a teacher, and I used to teach a lot of science, but I was always very worried if I went into a French class. So it is quite a concern as a parent to know some of the technicalities. It's quite easy to have an argument about the length of a skirt because we've all got an opinion on that one, haven't we? You don't need a formal education. So I think there is some work that we could do to actually support parents to know more about the curriculum and what the standards are. I think they know a lot more than my parents did. I think parents nowadays are more aware of achievement and how youngsters progress. But it is a really big, tough subject, like careers. It's a big subject that's difficult to get your head around.
So Liz, what happens here at the school?
We have regular parents' evenings, reports back to parents. We have the school planner where parents can converse. We're also going to a new system. We're going to try a system that hopefully will go live to parents the end of next year, where parents will be able to see how their children are achieving. They'll also, with that, be able to see that if they're not achieving in one subject, and that's really out of kilter with the rest of their progress, as will the teachers, and we'll be able to monitor that as well.
So Jessie and Josh, you wouldn't be able to get away with anything like that, you know. Parents are able to look online and see how you're doing. What about the parents in the audience particularly? All teachers come to that. Do you think you ought to get more involved and to know more about what's happening in school, or you're more than happy to leave it to the head teacher and the teachers? Would you like to raise a hand and we'll get a microphone to you? You've got a question or a point? Lovely, thank you. Over this side, please.
I'm just picking up on something that you guys said around the communication between parents and the school. A lot of parents nowadays work long hours, so with regards to parents' evenings and those types of things aren't always able to attend. So it would be good to have like a communication system where you can actually converse with the teacher, whether it's like email or something like that, to actually promote the communication side of things.
So email or text or something of that sort?
Yeah.
Or even just be able to pick up that.
Because you can't talk to the teachers obviously in the day because they're teaching the children, but actually then after that it becomes more difficult to communicate, and if you don't or aren't able to attend parents' evenings, then the communication side of things does break down.
It's difficult though, isn't it? Because, I mean, Alan, you can't expect teachers to be on the end of a phone 24 hours a day. What's the answer to this?
Well, I think we've got to be perhaps more imaginative. All the teacher unions are going to shoot me now, aren't they? But the world is a bit more 24/7, and you could have, I don't know, thinking off the top of my head, people available in the evening to pick up questions on an online forum or something. So I think we do need to be more flexible, but I also do think that your child's education is really important. And if in your working day you have to find the time to go and see a doctor, God forbid, or a mortgage consultant to sign off for a new house, or a lawyer or something, I accept if you've got lots of youngsters and that's lots of parents' evenings. But I think if the school communicates in good time, I think parents should find the time in a year, at least once in a year, to leave off work early and get to the parents' evening.
Could you not have one on a Saturday or a Sunday?
Well, that's something else we should look at as well. Once again, the teacher unions will shoot me for that, but we have got to be more flexible. But I still come back. Being a parent is really important, and sometimes that's got to come before work. I know that's not easy, but it shows real commitment, and lots of parents do that.
Essentially, my GP now, we can actually ring the surgery, and the GP will ring us back, and there'll be a time, 8:15, they'll ring back for a chat to you. So it can be done, and that was taken in because so many people said they couldn't get to the GP at the time they were open. So they've introduced this system. It seems to be working really well. Perhaps it's something schools could also do.
I think we do have parent mail where we can communicate with parents, and it very much is, dialogue is important. I do accept that. We're always thinking of better ways to up our communication.
Okay, anyone else want to chip in before we move on? No? Okay, let's go for our next question then. Yasmin.
When you were at our age, did you know what you wanted to do after school?
Do you know, that's a great question, because that was the one thing that struck me on the film. Everyone's got all this great advice on planning your career and everything, and yet almost all the adults interviewed didn't know what they wanted to do at school and ended up doing something completely different. I think that's a great question, so let's go along the table. Alan, did you know what you wanted to do when you...
I'll be consistent. I said no on the film,
you
and
did.
I'll say no now still.
I just wondered whether you changed your mind having thought about it.
No. I don't think people should be too worried about that. I think it's important to want to do well and accept, I keep saying it, don't I, but accept this responsibility. I think youngsters that have got a real drive to achieve something are often very successful, and the important thing then is that you can always change your mind, because if you've been successful and you've achieved, even if you change career, if somebody's really good at doing something, they're probably going to be good in a different environment, and you're probably going to want to give them a job or a place on your course. But I wouldn't get too worried at 16 or 18, or even, I've got to admit, at 21 I wasn't 100% certain of what I wanted to do. In fact, I'm 50 this year, and still, who knows what the future's going to have.
Well, I've changed careers completely about 3 or 4 times in my life. So, Sandra, we haven't heard from you for a while. What about you?
No, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I left school and started work for the bank. But for me, I think working for the bank, working for a large company, has actually given me a varied career. I've done so many different things. So sometimes I know when we've done things like this at other schools and I ask children, what do you think it's like working in a bank? The standard answer is boring. And I can assure you that it's not, because while working for a big company you get loads and loads of different opportunities, and all the skills you acquire are just transferable into different industries.
Liz?
I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a secretary. I wanted to go into the Wrens, but that changed, and at one point I was in finance. I now work for a grant-giving charity, and I always say I used to be a money lender, now I give it away, which is true. So I've changed completely, really. It's still office-based, I suppose, but that's what I think is my forte. But I think it's quite possible to change your mind. My youngest daughter wanted to be a legal executive, and now she's involved in social work. So she's completely changed. She did her legal secretarial training, started legal executive training, and just decided, no, that wasn't for her. And she's completely changed.
Josh, what did you want to do when you were younger?
I knew I wanted to do something in sports, but it's the subject within it. So it's personal training, coaching, and like even teaching, PE teaching, but it's what I want to do really. I don't really know what I want to do within it, but I know I want to do it within sports.
So Jessie, you said you knew what you wanted to do. You didn't tell us what it was.
I want to work in a school.
In a school?
Yeah.
Work in a school, what, in the teaching or
student support area?
Student support. Well, you could go into Suffolk New College and get involved with Student Union and you'd be on your way, wouldn't you? So that's interesting. So does that answer your question, that they all, most of them didn't really know what they wanted to do or have gone into sideways issues after that? Anyone like to comment on that from the floor? The fact, did they manage to change tack completely, or did you always know what you wanted to do and you've seen it through? Because there must be advantages to that, as we've already said, as Alan's already said. At least if you know, then you know where you're heading. No, we're all quite happy to leave it to the experts on the panel. That's fine. So thank you very much, Lee, for the question. Let's hear from Isaac.
What are the benefits of future education as opposed to apprenticeships, which will make us more employable?
Right, so we're talking about further education and apprenticeships, and which will make you more employable. Josh?
Well, these days it's more about work-based and work experience of jobs really, but I think further education is better because you get more qualification out of it instead of like NVQ from apprenticeship, but it depends what you really want to take up.
Could you not be an apprentice in the sports field?
Yeah.
Work at a gym or something?
Yeah, you can, yeah. It depends what you want to do, really.
So did you consider that at all?
I didn't, no. I wanted to go to university and get a degree and move out that way, like physiotherapy. You can't just go in and just be a physio. You've got to learn the backgrounds and ins and outs of it.
So is that what your plan is, to do Suffolk New College and then go to university from there?
Yeah, I don't know what I want to do yet. Something in sports.
We know it's something in sport, that's the main thing. So Alan, what do you think?
I think both routes are really good. It depends what you want to do. I don't think there's a better route. There are different routes, and the most important thing is that you really commit yourself and work hard and achieve. And nowadays there are lots of different pathways into professions. There are some professions, if you want to be a doctor, there's no way around it. You have to get a degree in medicine, but you won't get a job, you won't even get a place probably, unless you're really well connected, I would imagine, to read medicine, unless you've got a little bit of work experience. So you've done some volunteering. Quite a lot of people that train in the medical field have worked as healthcare assistants, so that they've done other things before or after their formal training. So there's no one good route. There are lots of different routes, and it really depends on what you want to do.
So are we getting back to this point that came up several times about hobbies and interests and making yourself more confident by doing the volunteering in a related field to something you might be interested in? It will all help.
Yeah, it really helps. I do think, though, there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with some people where they say personality is more important and attitude and all of these things than qualifications. And have a conversation recently with an employer that said that's more important and I'm not interested in the qualifications. Sadly, the bottom line is if you haven't got the qualifications in the first place, they won't start to look at your personality or your attitudes. And just for some people, they think, oh, well, that means the qualifications don't matter. They do. You don't even get into the race unless you've got the qualifications. It's a bit like an athlete. You've got to get a qualifying time to get into the Olympics. And if you don't reach the qualifying, you can't even compete. So it's really important that you get good qualifications at high school. You know, so when you're at Stoke, as everybody said, English and maths are really important, whatever you want to do. So you've got to get a good grounding, and then the personality and the attitude and the can-do, all of that really counts.
Sandra, apprenticeships. I mean, is that something that
It's not something that the bank actually offer at the moment. We have apprenticeship programs once you are an employee that the bank actually pay for, and there are further education within that. So we've actually got employees at the moment that if they have managed to get into the bank but don't have the maths and the English qualifications, that we will actually pay for them to resit that. So there's a lot of investment once you're involved, but what we are looking to try to do, and for me when I recruit, it's actually quite hard to find people. The GCSEs get you to my door. It's you then as a person that will actually secure the job, but it's actually quite hard to find people with the passion and the drive. So for us as an employer, what we want to do is get more involved with schools so that we can identify people perhaps at the colleges that have got the grades, they've made that bit, but actually to help them with the personality, because for us, we then know that we've got people that really do have a desire to come and be successful in business. So that for us is really important.
Liz, how do you view apprenticeships and further education?
I think it's very much horses for courses and what you want to do, but it is vital to get those basic exams and qualifications, because they do tell us now that we're educating students for jobs that haven't yet been invented. And if you haven't got those basic qualifications, you won't have anything to build on if you do have to change tack. I was lucky I'd got my basics so that as I've changed, I've been able to do it. And indeed, my daughter, I've mentioned earlier, she had those basic qualifications, so she could change. Without them, she would have had to go back to basics. And for some people, and your stage in life, having to go back to basics will be a barrier.
Jessie, have you looked into the possibility of an apprenticeship, or is it going to be college or what?
I've never looked into an apprenticeship really. I've always wanted to go to further education and go on to university as well.
Right, so your path is there and you know
Yeah, and
where
I'm
you're
following it.
heading. And we're wishing you good luck for it as well. Thank you. And let's go talk to Scott, because I think Sandra's going to be very interested to hear from you, Scott. You've met Scott. Oh, Scott's fame has gone before him. Scott, over to you.
Before this project, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I left school, but after visiting Lloyds Bank, I'd really like to go into banking. Do you think we are too young to choose what we want to do in life? Why?
Can I ask you why you like the idea of banking?
I don't know.
You like pressing the buttons, Scott, didn't you?
You just like it wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
No.
No, completely different. You thought it was going to be boring, and it wasn't. Right. So, Sandra, does that sort of gladden your
Oh,
heart?
I've got a big smile on my face. I think that's fantastic. And I think, to be fair, that's why employers like us need to get involved, because we need to show you a different light. Especially when I go into some of the younger schools, a lot of the children that you meet want to be singers, dancers, actors, and actually will they all get there? So if we can actually try...
Oh, TV has so much to answer for, doesn't it?
But if we can make the real life more interesting and more exciting, then I think we've achieved part of the battle, really.
Scott asked, do you think they're too young to know what they want to do?
No, I think you're old enough to know what you like and what you think you'll be good at. And from there, that path could take you anywhere. But I think the fact that you've got a direction at this age already will really push you to do well in your exams. And really, that's what everybody's saying today, is just get those basics and then who knows what could happen.
Right. Age, choosing what you want to do, Alan?
No, if you've
not a problem,
got
too
if you've got
young.
a passion for something or something sparked your interest, you know, whether it be a cashier pushing buttons in a bank or whatever it might be, and actually spending the time in a bank and seeing the workings and wanting to work for one of the big corporates, if that's really what fires you up, go for it. Lots of people make decisions very early on, don't they? You hear these amazing life stories of this individual at 5 years old decided they want to do something, and they get to the top of the profession because they're driven to do that. And then others, we start off on something. I've changed my career, but it still comes back down to really working hard. There's no, but you need the passion to work hard because you want to enjoy life, don't you?
Could you not sometimes, though, not be aiming high enough when you choose something at a younger age? I only say that because I said that I went to Tower Ramparts, which I have to say was very good in some ways, but on career advice it was not good at all. And I wanted to be a nurse because my mum was a nurse, and I couldn't do that till I was 18, so I was going to train to be a nursery nurse first because I could do that at 16 at the college. And so literally nobody ever said to me, hang on a minute, Rachel, you could do A-levels, you could do a degree. So I didn't do my degree until I was in my mid-40s. I did it as a mature student at Open University. If only someone had said to me, aim a bit higher, girl.
No, I think that is, once again, that's an issue for Suffolk as well, really, that we need to push hard. It's a really lovely place to live. I've moved into the area and it's a great place to live, but it can be a bit cosy sometimes, and you've got to push yourself out of the comfort zone, and you've got to be supported to do that. The great advantage is if you do aim high, you don't quite get there, you're probably still going to do really well, aren't you? Whereas if you aim low, you can make life a bit more difficult for yourself.
I was once asked for a magazine article what advice I wish I'd given myself when I was younger, when I was a teenager. And I said, I wish I'd have known that there's a big world outside Suffolk. I've lived in Suffolk all of my life and I love Suffolk, but I just wish I'd been brave enough to go off and find a life outside and perhaps come back later on.
Yeah, and that's why people in school that know you well, Wendy made the point on the film about how critical careers education is. I think all staff, regardless of your role in a school, that's one thing that for me in the last 10 years has really changed. There should be more emphasis on people working in schools. You can't be an expert in all careers, but it should be part and parcel of what everybody does, whether it be somebody like Jessie, who might be a member of the support team, one of the teachers, one of the caretakers. All of us can play a part in encouraging youngsters to think about the many opportunities and encourage them all to really aim high.
Liz, you're nodding quite a lot. Would you like to chip in on this point?
No, I quite agree. I think Suffolk is very cosy. I was very fortunate. I was going to go into the Wrens because I wanted to travel, but then I met my husband and he was in the army and we had the chance to travel. And I got married very young, but I still had that opportunity to go out of Ipswich, go out of Suffolk and see another world. And there is another world outside Suffolk. And it can be very different. And it is lovely to come back. It's a lovely place to live. But I think it does you good to go outside and experience life somewhere else as well.
Sandra, are you Suffolk born and bred? Or?
No, I'm Essex. I live in Chelmsford, so I...
Did you bring your passport with you tonight?
I know. But again, working for the bank has led me to work in Surrey. I've worked in Kent. I've travelled around a lot, and I've done that for 6 months, then I've come back home. So again, working for a company doesn't mean that you necessarily will stay where you are. There's huge amount of opportunities.
Jessie, can you see yourself staying in Suffolk with your work, or have you got ambitions to go elsewhere?
I'm not really sure. It depends where it takes me, really. I'm not planning to go anywhere or do anything, just wherever it goes.
So it's each step as you go along and not look too far ahead. What about you, Josh?
Me, I haven't really thought of it. I haven't really thought of it actually moving out kind of thing, just settle down really, because I'm not from Ipswich either, so nice laid back atmosphere I think, so it's...
We'd have nothing against Suffolk, do we, Alan? It's just this idea of, there's a big world out there.
My wife's from Suffolk, my kids were brought up here. It's a great place, but I think we need to remember that there are lots of opportunities. I mean, the opportunities actually, Ipswich is a good town, and there are lots of opportunities in Ipswich. We've got a university now. You don't need to leave the county now to study at degree level. And obviously there are some world leaders in terms of the businesses in Ipswich, if you look at some of the organisations. So there are amazing opportunities. So I'm not saying you need to leave Suffolk to aim high, but I think it is important that
you raise the bar.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we do that in schools and colleges. We really push the students. That comes back to the first question about pressure. We want you to be really successful. If you don't want to be a world champion at something, or and I'm not just talking about sport or the best singer, it might be the best care worker or whatever it is, but to be the very best. If you don't want to do that, that's fine, but everybody should have the opportunity to really be whatever they want to be.
Do please raise your hand or yell out at me if you want to join it. I can imagine all the parents here saying, no, we don't want them to move away. We want them to stay nearby. Let's hear from Jessica.
When we visited businesses, we found out that life skills, personality and attitude were more important than qualifications. What is your opinion on this?
Well, we've touched on this already, haven't we? And I know that, Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, you said they're not more important than qualifications. They're in addition to qualifications.
Well, I think the bottom line is you need the qualifications to enter the race. When you're in nobody asks me now what my O levels were. They're not interested. They're hardly even interested in what degree I got. It's more about what I do in the workplace and my attitude to work and how I relate to other people. But I wouldn't have got where I am today without the qualifications. I wouldn't even be in the race. So you need the qualifications, but the qualifications on their own won't do it for you.
I do remember my sons, I've got 2 adult sons, and I said to each of them, when they were taking exams, I said, remember, people will never, when you're an adult, ask you what GCSEs you got. It is a step to take you on to the next level, and that will then take you to the next level. It's very few careers, actually, when they look back that far.
Ultimately, it is your personality. In life, you'll have a happy life if you've got a good attitude and you're nice to people, because they'll be nice back to you, and you'll probably be happy, and everybody around you will be happy. But you have to earn money as well, and you've got to find a way of usually finding employment. I mean, some people have very fortunate backgrounds where they don't need to worry about that, but most of us have to make our own way in life. So you need the qualifications and a good track record, but ultimately for a good life, it's about you and your personality, isn't it? Really.
Not everyone's got the confidence to stand up and ask a question or sit on a panel or be on the radio, whatever it might be. Is there one tip you could pass on to anyone who's feeling a bit shy?
Have a go at doing it. The youngsters here probably would have been fazed by I'm fazed by these lights. Standing in front of lots of people that they don't know and speaking out loud, but you all can do it. Ordinary people do extraordinary things, don't they? When they're put into a situation, you can do things that you never thought you could do, and it's really up to schools and parents to give their youngsters, their students, opportunities to step out of a comfort zone. And these two are brilliant, aren't they? Look how articulate they are in front of all these people. No stumbles in their answers at all. It's amazing. But it's because they've been given a chance to do that. So the more that we can do it and break the timetables down and persuade teachers that if they're not in geography today, it won't be the end of the world. We're going to do something a bit different. And parents not being worried that they're not going to get their 5 hours of maths this week because they're going to go off and visit Lloyds Bank or Willis or whatever it is, because they are more important, sorry geographers and maths teachers, than every single minute in your maths or geography class. Those are the things, and that'll give you the opportunity to get the confidence that these two youngsters have got.
Josh, you're Vice President of Students' Union.
Yes.
What did you have to do to get to that role?
I had to complete my level 3 on my course and then get voted in. Yeah, so I've got to go around to classrooms, get votes and just get out there, get your voice heard.
How nerve-wracking was that?
It was quite... it's quite... First classroom, standing up there in front of 30 people with their teacher thinking, what is he doing there? So it is quite nerve-wracking, but when you get a couple, it's like work experience. As soon as you get work experience and you know what you're doing, and then it becomes more easier. So
how many people were you competing against for the job?
For the first one, 3, but 2 cut out.
Right, so you had to... And the students voted you into the role?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
And it's a paid role, is that right?
Paid role, yeah.
It's a paid role, but you had to go out there like a politician would and sell your pitch so that the students at the college would vote you in. That must have taken a lot of guts.
Yeah, it was, especially... Well, it was more of the arts and crafts where I weren't really good at, but the posters turned out quite well.
Oh, so you had to do the posters and everything.
Posters, yeah, big banners.
Why did you want to do that?
Oh, because of my experience at college, well, as small as like a motorbike helmet can't fit in a locker because it's so small, and the canteen being too expensive, and I felt like I could go and change it really. So
have you got bigger lockers now for your helmets?
yeah, we've got them in a set section. Yeah, more
And
car
food?
parking spaces.
So you've actually achieved something. So you decided you were going to stand for election. You got voted in to make changes. You've been able to do them. That must give you so much confidence now.
It does, but it's still nerve-wracking. It is. It's not easy.
Well, let's ask you, Jessie, then. I mean, we've heard you're both very confident, very articulate, as we've heard. How hard is that?
I never used to be a confident person a few years ago, but the school has given me so many different opportunities to be able to grow in confidence. I've done assemblies, I've done work experience, I've been camping with the school, and I've just done so many things, which has given me the chance to grow in myself, and they've just helped me along that journey.
Good. Sandra, what advice would you give to people if they're not feeling that confident? I mean, presumably you think it is an important thing.
That's a real life example of it actually. In the bank we've changed a little bit how we serve our customers, and we've encouraged staff to be more out in the banking hall, so as you walk in you're there and you're being meet and greet, if you like, by people. And for us as managers, we chose our perhaps bubbliest, most confident individuals, thinking that they really were the people that should be out there meeting our customers. And we actually learnt a really valuable lesson because it wasn't them that was the best at it. And some of our best staff now doing that role are the ones that are quieter, perhaps wouldn't stand up in front of everybody and speak, but on a one-on-one basis, they can really engage and give absolute dedication to their customers. So it's not always about being the loudest. It's actually about having that genuine, heartfelt need and desire to help people in the industry that we work in.
So being a good listener as well as being a good
Absolutely.
talker.
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting, worth knowing. Liz?
I wish I'd had the confidence of these two when I was younger. I've had to learn it. I found it very difficult to stand up in front of people and talk, but I have a real passion for education and improving the life chances of the students, not only here and at the primary school where I used to be a governor as well. And I think it's that passion that's led me on. And the more you do, the easier it gets. But this is really nerve-wracking.
Well, yes, it's the lights and the cameras and everything else, isn't it? It doesn't make it easy. Well, hopefully that's given you a few. Anyone got any thoughts of the tips? I mean, I was always in drama groups when I was at school, so I've always been a bit of a show-off, so that's not been a problem, that side of things. But has anyone found... Right, thank you. Microphone over here and camera. We'd like to hear your ideas on this confidence business. Thank you.
I'd like to support everything the panel is saying, because from a very young age, my mum always said to me, have the confidence to try. And I think the really important thing is that if it doesn't work out, it doesn't really matter, because you'll have learned something from it and you'll try something else. So I think not being afraid to not succeed and learn from the mistakes is really important.
I think that's a really good point. We can't all be best at everything. We can't all be the winner. Sport would be a good example of that. But actually having a go, you know, all the people who don't win Wimbledon, for example, at least, you know, they've had a go along the way. So thank you for that. Any other thoughts? Yes, please, over here.
No, I just wanted to add to something that Alan said about the benefits of giving students other opportunities and getting them out of the classroom. Because I've worked with these students on this project, and it's been great to see different skills and different talents coming out that you don't get the opportunity to see in the classroom. So that just proves Alan's point, really.
Yes, I don't know how...
It's been a real treat to see that.
I don't know how it's worked here in this school, but I certainly know when, as Jill said earlier, I did the panel for Holbrook, and one of the particular stars who worked on the video and so on, I was talking to her and her parents afterwards, her mum afterwards, and her mum said it's really hard because she was torn. You know, the teachers didn't want her to come out of the classroom to make the video and to get involved with the project, and yet she's grown so much from that. How do we get this across, Alan, to teachers? Teachers are passionate about their subjects. They want their students to do well. They don't want to sort of lose them for an hour or so.
Well, being a teacher is like being a parent, isn't it? And sometimes you've got to let I've got 3 kids, and the youngest was 20 a week or so ago, and it's really hard letting your kids go. Sometimes you just got to let them go to let them grow up. And I would say sometimes teachers have just got to let them out of the classroom, or in the classroom, let the students have more responsibility so that the teachers aren't leading everything all the time. The best lessons that most students, when I talk to students about what are your best lessons, it's the ones where they take more control and they work more with other students, not just listening to a teacher. I'm stereotyping dreadfully there. Not just listening to a teacher all the time, but that's what they enjoy. And that's what good teaching is about, allowing students to have more space to grow and develop. And that might also mean collapsing normal lessons and letting them out for other things. What I would say as a parent, if you do give your kid a bit of a chance, I'm sure lots of people in the audience would testify to this, they do grow up. They, you need to let them go and then they grow up, and it's tough, but they usually end up better. And likewise, if students come out of normal lessons and they grow and develop, I bet these youngsters here will be more successful in their lessons because they've got more confidence, they'll take more responsibility, they're more focused because they're going to be running a Lloyd's TSB branch in a few years' time. Because of the other activities. And it isn't that they can't happen in the class, they do, but I think it's a bit more exciting and a bit different to get out of your normal environment. Sometimes like getting out of Suffolk, I suppose.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here on the part of the teachers. So the teachers might say, please correct me if I'm wrong, those teachers who are here, that's all fine to say, but when the results come out and there's the league tables and we're under pressure to make sure we get the exam results.
Yeah, but they'll catch up. I'm embarrassed to admit, I remember one lad in my class, and he was away for a genuine illness for a number of weeks once, and I gave him a lot of extra work to do to catch up outside, and do you know what? That little so-and-so did better in the exams than some of the kids that had been with me every week. Because he was motivated. I gave him the extra work to do, and he went home, was well supported at home, and caught up.
So it will sort itself out in the end. Liz?
I think that's true. I always say that not everybody is going to get, a whole set of A-star O-level, or GCSE, but when we do our school productions, we have sports day, and or we have music concerts, and for those students that stand up there and get that applause, they never forget that, and it gives them the confidence and the drive, I feel, to go on and work that little bit harder in lessons. And also it's a trust thing. When we have the school production and we'll maybe have 70 students coming out of lessons to do the production, it's also an understood thing that they will go back and they will make up that time and they will put in that extra effort for the time they've missed in their lessons.
Do you want to chip in on this, Jessie? You were sort of nodding there.
No, because I was part of the school production before, and adding to the confidence thing, it did help me develop in my confidence, and having that confidence made me drive more in my lessons and be able to succeed.
Do you think the teachers noticed that?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
Perhaps they should have told you. They should have said, shouldn't they? Jessie, you've really gained in confidence since you were in the school play. Well done. Perhaps we need a bit more of that sort of positive reinforcement along the way. So, any other comments before we move on to the next topic? Yes, one over here, please. Thank you.
I would just like to say that it is a balance, and it is difficult as head teacher. I am put under pressure from teachers not to let students come out of lessons. But I believe that my responsibility is to develop, yes, good academic qualifications, but also wider skills. And I think it's the wider skills that we're talking about that they get from these opportunities. But I don't see the two as being mutually exclusive. That I would say, I agree that Jessie has grown in confidence, and I would think that actually she has made better use of her lessons, having the confidence to do that. So I don't see, but at the end of the day it's a balance. So there are certain points of the year where I agree that we won't let students come out of lessons, and there's other parts where teachers just have to accept that if I think a project like this one is important and I full-heartedly support it, then the students come out of lessons and that's it.
Can I ask you then what you've thought about the project and the students that have taken part in
I
it?
think the project has been amazing. I think it's been really good to see these young people grow over the period. They've been really excited about what they've seen. They've been very much engaged in the project. It's been really interesting getting feedback and listening to what they've been doing. And I think the culmination of that, which is this evening, has been tremendous.
That's good. That's good. It was interesting at Holbrook. They were slightly older students, and it's been interesting to see the young people here. Perhaps to catch them before they get too involved in exams and things might be a good age group to work with. I'm thinking about future schools.
Yeah, and I think that is again part of the balance that currently our Year 10s, in fact, yesterday and today, are preparing the controlled assessment for an exam next year. So again, that was the balance at certain points, but we do collapse the timetable and we do have curriculum enhancement activities, and we have next week is an activities week where we provide lots of opportunities that are different from the normal curriculum, and I think they are as important as some of the lessons that they do. And so I full-heartedly support Alan's opinion on that, but I do have to say that not all of my teachers agree all of the time.
That's fine. Thank you very much indeed. Let's speak to Josh, who has our next question.
A recent statement said that employers were from Mars and young people were from Venus. In that there is a clear mismatch between employers' expectations of young people and young people's understanding of what is expected of them. What is your view on this?
Right, so a clear mismatch between employers' expectations of young people and young people's understanding of what's expected of them. Sandra, do you think that's true?
I've seen examples of it, I would say, over the years. Certainly.
Can you give us an example? Well, that's hard, putting you on the spot.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I think a great example of it, actually, is I had just a member of staff ask for some help a few weeks ago because their son's just finished doing his exams, and they'd professionally paid for a CV and a covering letter to be written, and she asked me to have a look at it because he'd sent this application off to about 50, 60 jobs and got no reply. And when I looked at his letter, this guy was about 20, very little work experience, but the letter, I don't think I've seen so many long words in one letter in my life. Actually, it was quite hard to read and to actually work out exactly what he was trying to say. So the best feedback I gave to her was that really that covering letter is his opportunity for him to come across and to perhaps accept that he doesn't have the experience that we're looking for, but what he does have is the drive and why he really thinks that this is the job for him. And I saw her last week, and she said that he's actually sent off applications and he's got 2 interviews next week.
So it's worked.
Which was really, really pleasing. So I think my best advice in that example is be you. Don't do what you think an employer would want to see. Write about you. But more importantly, and obviously it's getting through the interview process and everything, but it's about having standards, and this is where the school really embeds those standards in you. And it's about turning up not on time, it's about turning up early, being ready to work.
Yes, that was a lovely point in the film, wasn't it? Be there on time or ahead of time.
Yes, absolutely. Be ready to get stuck in. And, you know, my first year in the bank, I made coffee and I put pieces of paper in an envelope. Did I think that was the job I was going into? No, I didn't. But actually what it taught me is you've got to start somewhere. And my boss probably did it on purpose to see what I was made of, and I stuck at it, and then obviously things have moved from there. So there is a differentiation, but we need to be very clear when we're interviewing people what our standards are so that people know what it's like.
Josh, do you think it's right that young people think work expectations is one thing when really there's something else?
It's hard to say because of obviously with me getting in as vice president, I thought I'd be more involved with the activities and organising events and stuff, but really I was just I was helping out my the president who was, and just basically picking up his little pieces that he forgot really, and not really.
You were his right-hand man.
As he'll say, yes.
Right. And what about you, Liz? What do you think? Do you think there is this, young people think bosses want one thing when actually bosses want something else?
Sometimes I think that can be true. And I think some bosses have an unrealistic opinion of young people, that they're very out of touch with young people. But I think when you go for interview, you need to present yourself, as Sandra said, you need to present yourself, you need to show that you are responsible, you need to ask the right questions as well about what your role will be. And I always say as well that work experience is brilliant because it shows you what is available in that field, but it can also show you that something you think you wanted to do really isn't appropriate for you, and and your personality even.
Yeah, one of my sons was sure he wanted to go into forensic photography, and he did work experience with the police and ended up a passionate chef and has worked all over the world as a chef and very happy doing that. So yes, he did it, found he didn't like it, and that was it. So I think that's true. Alan, what about this business? Do you think it's true to start with that, what was the phrase again? Employers are from Mars and young people are from Venus?
I think it's an age thing, isn't it? I think I've got a pet theory on this one. When we get old, we forget what it's like to be young. So when I was the head teacher here and all the other high schools that I worked in, all of the year 11s said that the year 7s were really cheeky and badly behaved. And we weren't like that when we were year 11s. And every year they've said that. The young year 7s, they're only 16, these youngsters, and they're saying that these 12-year-olds are really leery and out of order. And then if you imagine you're as old as me, thinking what an 18-year-old's like. But I do think that some adults have got rose-tinted specs about what they were like when they were left school. Because when I left school, and I did quite well, I didn't have the confidence to stand and present. And quite a lot of youngsters do this now. They stand in front of audiences and they're able to answer questions and come up with some, really smart answers to things. Whereas we weren't taught to do that. But we forget that. And so I think the expectation of some employers, they've just lost touch with what it's like to be 16 and they expect the finished product. And nobody's the finished product. And I think there's also an element of the youth of today and it's not their fault, they've never had to wait for anything. We live in a world where you pretty much get nice things reasonably quickly. So I sound like a really old man there, don't I? But so I think there's a combination of the way society's changed. But apparently Romans were saying that the youngsters, the teenagers were badly behaved in Roman times, so we've always been saying it.
It's very funny. A few chief constables back, not the current chief constable, but a few chief constables back said to me that whenever he goes out doing talks, people moan about young people hanging around street corners and on the Cornhill in Ipswich and how terrible it is. And he shows them a photo of Victorian times, and there are all the young men standing on the steps in their boaters and stuff on the Cornhill steps in Ipswich. So nothing has changed really over the years, has it? Let's have our final question, please, and it comes from Bradley. He's waited so long for his big moment. Bradley.
How can we get businesses and schools to work better together?
Good final question for us, and we're very grateful for the businesses who did get involved with this project, of course. Josh, how do you think that businesses and schools should work more together?
I think, well, here when I was back at high school in year 10, we went off to work experience and basically did 2 weeks there. Don't know really. How could they? Probably get them in for one of the lessons, something that they're doing, like a subject, for a little talk or something. Just telling them how to get there and what they need. And
so the businesses come into school rather than schools go to businesses.
Yeah. Or you can do either.
Do either, right. Yeah. Jessie, what do you think?
I agree with Josh. I think it'd be really beneficial to students if more businesses did branch out to see younger people and see what they can provide for businesses, not just see them as them people that do hang around on street corners.
Sandra?
Just more of this. It's a really big responsibility for us as an employer to get to know our local community. It's something that we have a corporate responsibility to, so we just need to do more of this because it's been so interesting, and I've done a lot with schools and found out so much, and I've met some brilliant inspirational students that give me confidence about the people that we'll see coming through into our business.
Why have we got the point though where some businesses such as your own are doing so much and others perhaps are doing very little?
sometimes I wonder if it actually comes down to the confidence within the business, because a lot of what we've set up is through an individual teacher and an individual employee getting together and having a chat and coming up with the ideas. So actually maybe if you have these ideas, for you to approach a business that you think would be of interest, because it's probably something that they wouldn't even consider becoming involved with.
So many businesses are struggling now, though, and they don't have the money, they don't have the time.
But it's not about money. Me coming here this evening, the children coming to our school didn't cost us a penny. You know, we don't have budgets like that to be able to support local schools, but what we do have is a number of employers that really do care about their local community. They'll have kids that come here, and we're doing more and more just like this with schools and charities.
Okay, businesses and schools working together. Liz?
I think it is a partnership. I think it's welcoming business is into school and us going out to businesses, and it's got to be a two-way street. The more you talk, the more you understand each other.
Alan?
I think we need to do something with teachers, so it should be part of teacher training, teacher education, to say that careers education is critical for the personal development of students, so that they don't come up with barriers for students being out of lessons. Coordinating it, big organisations like Lloyds TSB have got more capacity to do these things than a business with just 2 or 3, where every minute for them does cost, you know, if they're not there. But if we can coordinate it amongst employees, which the attempts have been made in the past, the government could help by giving businesses tax breaks or whatever, some financial incentive to make it easier to find the time within their busy working years to engage with young people, because it is good for the country. If we've got more youngsters that know more about what careers they want to do, they're better motivated, they're more successful, we'll be able to compete on an international, because some of the businesses in Ipswich are international businesses and the competitors are all over the world, and we want our youngsters in the UK to be able to box at a world level, if you like. So the government, I think, could do something to encourage shareholders not to want an instant return on everything they do, because this is long term, isn't it? It's going to take a long time, and the pressure in a business is to return a profit to shareholders, so we can be a bit short term sometimes.
I did say earlier on that we'll have another of these panels in years to come, and Jessie will be back here as an expert in her field. But thank you very much indeed for all the questions and to our brilliant panel.